There's 3 temperatures. 145 is for like steaks, roasts, chops, things like that, even fish. 160 is for any ground meats. That's like ground beef, ground pork, ground lamb. And then 165 is for any kind of poultry product, whether it's pieces, chicken breasts, chicken legs, ground chicken, any kind of poultry needs to reach 165. It only needs to hold there for 30 seconds or so. And watching those temperatures is also not just food safety, but it can be a good quality indicator, too, that you're not overcooking your food.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says those who are fully vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus don't need to wear a face mask when walking, hiking, biking, running alone, or gathering in small groups outside. As a result, this Memorial Day weekend and summer will be much different than a year ago, including being able to fire up the grill. The coronavirus pandemic has made all of us more aware of the need to protect our health and the health of others. A K-State Research and Extension food safety specialist says that's also critically important when we prepare, cook, serve, and store food. On today's Sound Living, food safety tips for outdoor grilling. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. No matter what you're grilling, Karen Blakeslee, who is also coordinator of the university's Rapid Response Center, says there are 4 food safety steps: clean, separate, cook, and chill that, if followed, will prevent foodborne illness. Karen, a lot to think about as we get to the grilling season, and really it starts with the grill itself, whether it's a propane grill or whether you're using charcoal. The safety measures are pretty much the same, especially in terms of location and making sure that it's set up safe to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. You want to find a spot in your backyard that's away from your house, not too close to it, because that residual heat off the grill could get the siding warm on your house, especially if you have vinyl siding. I've seen it melt. So you want to be sure that you're got it in a good location, a good solid foundation for it to sit on, like a cement slab or something like that. And then also give your grill a good look over if you haven't used it in a while. Clean it up a little bit. Make sure you scrape the grate down really well. Get the residual off. There are some cleaners out there you can use to get that off, or use a really good stiff brush. That'll help. Sometimes just turning, especially with gas, you can easily just turn it on and let it heat up for a while. And sometimes that'll burn off the residue that's been caked on there. So give it a good cleaning. Make sure you clean out the residual grease that's underneath there too. The drip pan, get that cleaned out. So give it a good once over, I guess you could say, and then you should be ready to go for this season.
The only thing to check then on the gas grill is really the connection points?
Yes, check those connection points, make sure they're good and tight. Check, the level in your gas tank and see if you need to get some more gas. Check the connections. There's sometimes you can take some dish soap and rub that around where the connection is to see if any bubbles form. If you see any bubbles, then it's not tight enough. So screw it in real tight, and because you don't want any gas to leak. You don't want to have any problems with that. So make sure it lights okay. If it's got a starter on it, you want to make sure that's working properly. Replace it if need be. That's really important. You certainly don't want to have a fire from that.
I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but we always do. Don't grill in your garage.
No, that's not a good idea. I understand if it's raining outside, you want to stay out of the elements, but the smoke that comes off of that could have carbon monoxide in it, and so you don't want to let that build up inside your garage. So be very careful about that.
When it comes to grilling itself, a couple of things to keep in mind. Actually, 4 things to keep in mind, right?
That's right.
Clean is what we start with.
Yeah, keeping things clean. And when it comes to food safety, the number one thing to start with in any kind of cooking situation is washing your hands. That is the most important thing that you can do. It's your first line of defense, is the way I call it. And it's so easy to do, and all of us should be really good at it by now with everything that we've been through. So always wash your hands, and then use clean utensils, use clean plates. using a plate for the raw meat and then another clean plate for the cooked meat. Clean as you go. Make sure that you clean up any drips anywhere. After you've handled any raw meat or anything like that, always wash your hands again. It's just good practice to do that. It only takes 20 seconds.
We're trying to avoid that cross-contamination.
Exactly. That's the main thing, especially if you're making a salad, like a fresh lettuce salad or a fresh fruit, getting ready to cut that up. You always want to wash your hands before you handle those fresh products like that because those are ready-to-eat foods. You're not planning to cook those. So you don't have that cooking step to help ensure that if any bacteria is there gets killed during the cooking process. So that's where washing your hands comes in, and that's really important.
You mentioned the fruits and vegetables, and that's something that if it is fresh, we want to wash as well.
Exactly. And also giving it a good rinse on the outside, like watermelons. We'll be getting close to watermelon season here. Rinse those first to get the dirt off it because they grow on the ground. And so you want to get the dirt off of those first before you start cutting it up, because there has been instances where if it's not washed and you cut through it with your knife can transfer bacteria to the inside, the flesh of the product that you eat. And you don't know that until maybe you get sick later. So that easy little rinsing step with good, clean, running water will help reduce any risk from that.
Yeah, it seems like we hear about that with cantaloupe and honeydew almost every season.
Yeah, there's always it pops up, unfortunately. But, lettuce has been another issue. Fresh spinach has been in the news as far as any kind of foodborne illness. So always rinse those. Again, use good, clean running water. Don't need to use any soap. Don't need to use any bacteria washes, the produce washes. Don't need to use any bleach, nothing. Just use plain water and rub it. Use your clean hands to rub the, lettuce has lots of little cracks and crevices in it. So you want to rub it a little bit. Just take a little time and get it prepped right. And then you'll have a much safer product in the end.
There are some meats, though, that we don't wash.
Yeah, actually, we don't wash any meats. That's not a recommendation anymore. I know there's the belief that washing them helps wash off the bacteria. It really doesn't. The best thing you can do is cook it properly. So you don't need to wash the meats. And the other thing you could potentially do, if you do rinse the meats with water, you're splattering water with the meat juice around your cabinets, in your sink, and everywhere. And you may forget to clean that up. So that's just another source of cross-contamination. It's those little things, just paying attention to those little things and, start some new habits and change those little things. You can really prevent a lot of issues in the long run.
And that's the second step, is to separate.
Yes, yeah. Separate things. Again, with grilling meat, you want to have your raw meat on a plate. And then when it's done, you want to have either wash that plate or get a different plate that's clean and use that for the cooked meats. So that's an easy way to keep those separated. And then keep your raw meats away from your ready-to-eat products, like your fresh vegetables and fruits that are ready to eat. That will help reduce any kind of cross-contamination.
You talked about the cooking process, getting it to the right temperature. There are 3 temperatures, I believe, that we should probably know by now and should have memorized.
Yeah, they've really narrowed down the list over the years of the temperatures to remember. We used to kind of have a really long list of them for meats in particular. There's 3 temperatures. 145 is for like steaks, roasts, chops, things like that, even fish. 145 is the temperature to look for. 160 is for any ground meats. That's like ground beef, ground pork, ground lamb. And then 165 is for any kind of poultry product, whether it's pieces, chicken breasts, chicken legs, ground chicken, any kind of poultry needs to reach 165. And that's just it only needs to hold there for 30 seconds or so. And watching those temperatures is also not just food safety, but it can be a good quality indicator too, that you're not overcooking your food. So keep that in mind. A thermometer, there's all kinds of thermometers out there. So pick the one that you like. There's some that are real inexpensive, like $5-6 or something like that. The dial thermometers are real simple to use. And then there's fancy ones, the digital ones that you can insert into your meat product before you start grilling, and then you can watch the temperature go up. So there's all kinds of gadgets. There's even some that connect to your phones now, so you can watch the temperature remotely. Stay out of the heat and away from your grill, and then you can sit inside your air-conditioned living room and watch the temperature that way. So, use those gadgets. That makes it a little funner, I guess. It makes it a little easier to get into the habit of using it.
A lot of people like to use the grill to make the entire meal, and that becomes a little bit more complicated when you're doing vegetables and things because they don't all cook at the same rate.
Yeah, that's true. And that just kind of depends on, what you're planning to make. Things like grilled asparagus, for example. That only takes like 2 or 3 minutes at most. You can put them directly on the grill, and those cook up real easy. Potatoes can take a long time, longer amount of time, I should say, depending on how you're going to grill them. If you make steak fries, what I do is I usually just put them straight on the grill grate. And it'll take 15-20 minutes. But if you make a foil packet of potatoes and onions or something like that, that steam that gets created while it's cooking will help cook them faster. So it just depends on how you're planning to cook those things. If you have a big enough grill where you can have different temperature settings on it, so you can have a higher heat on one side and lower on the other, then you can divide things up a little easier. But if you just have a grill with a single burner on it or a charcoal grill, maybe it's not feasible to do that. So you just have to time things out. Usually the times that it takes to cook things in the kitchen are pretty transferable to the grill. So that might be a place to start. But again, your meats, really your temperature is what you're really aiming for on that. You can always go a little higher. Just we don't like to see undercooked meat too much. So just be careful about that.
A lot of people like to use marinades on both meat and vegetables. Are there any concerns there?
Yeah, especially with meats. If you marinate your meat, raw meat in that, and you want to use the leftover marinade, you want to heat that up first, bring it to a boil. If you're just brushing some extra onto the meat while it's grilling, that's okay. But if you're going to use it as like a dip or something like that, then you want to heat up that leftover marinade to a boiling, then you can use it safely for that.
And the final thing is chill.
Yes, we got to chill things. It's starting to get warmer outside. And so the good rule of thumb is to get things back in the refrigerator or the ice chest within 2 hours. If it's over 90 degrees outside, you want to cut that back to 1 hour. And that's just because your food's going to heat up pretty quickly when it's left out at ambient temperature like that. So keep that in mind. If you're out having a picnic out by the lake or something, take plenty of ice chests with you so you've got places to keep your leftovers when you're done. But the other thing, too, is to plan. Plan to have only the amount of food that you're going to need. That way you don't have any leftovers, too. But just keep in mind that 2-hour rule and get things chilled within that time, and then you'll be fine.
And if somebody wants more information, you have a lot of that online, just easy to Google.
Yes, easy to Google. We have a food safety website for Extension, and it's ksre.ksu.edu/food safety. And there's a whole ton of information on there.
That's K-State Research and Extension Food Safety Specialist Karen Blakeslee, coordinator of the university's Rapid Response Center. Again, food safety information is available online at ksre.ksu.edu/food safety, ksre.ksu.edu/food safety. And if you have specific food safety questions or concerns, you can contact the county or district extension office in your area. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is another source for food safety information. You can find that at foodsafety.gov. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. And this is the K-State Radio Network.